directly focused on what can we do about it, and we being anyone, not just someone who's in charge of hiring or someone who is a social activist or anything like that, but how can anyone have an impact in this issue?
Okay. First, I would say, for those who aren't activists who aren't involved in some type of activism, attach yourself to some type of campaign or activism that is fighting for change, such as the one I mentioned with the whole ban the box from employment applications, or work. You can go out and find not-for-profit organizations or other organizations that fight against these policies or economic structures that actually prevent employment for minorities. The second piece is to educate yourself on the policies of what's really going on with the Supreme Court, and as the panel said, with the EEOC and how the economy really works. Also, it starts at home. So, education piece, with your children, your neighbors, it's really about building communities from a village perspective. So if more people on the ground level actually connect together and start a mass movement, if we boycott corporate America, they'll respond. I mean, the whole notion of gas being almost $5 a gallon, if we were all not to go to a gas station for one day, I really think BP would respond. I mean, I know that's not a whole system change, but at least it's a start. Also, I have to go back to what I said earlier about being more of a producer and not a consumer. So thinking about starting your own enterprise, whether it's a for-profit enterprise or a social enterprise where you actually control your hiring policies to make them more equitable, more socially responsible. The last piece is, of course, the education piece. As a nation, we've fallen so far behind in terms of the global perspective of education and training. We just have to get back to where we need to be and be more progressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Education is a huge component, and formal education is great, but more self-education along with that formal education is going to open up more doorways, I believe. You can't change the system, or you can, but you have to, just like the doctor said down there, that it's like a vampire coming back, you can't kill it, right? So if it's a huge problem, we as individuals have to do something about it to change, and education is the key to making that happen and becoming aware. Because we're always taught, and I think again, it's changing that mindset. We're always taught, growing up, what are we taught? You go to school, you study hard, you go to college, study hard, you get a job, and you work hard, and you retire, and the company is going to take care of you. Well, we all know that is gone with the wind. I mean, that's never coming back. And so what do we have to do to change that? Just like Walter said, I believe that taking control of yourself and figuring out through your education, how can I make myself marketable? And because we are in a capitalistic society, take advantage of that capitalism. People come here every day for the freedoms that we sometimes take advantage of. They come here specifically to open their own businesses, and they are successful at it. But because we were taught, maybe as middle-income people, middle-income families, that we have to do certain things in a certain way to keep with the structure of society to be socially accepted, we have to do, go to school, get a job, and do those certain things. We have to start thinking outside of the box. start thinking about how can we help ourselves instead of somebody else helping us. And so, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I guess maybe my role is going to become the critic of capitalism. That relates to my job in healthcare. Everybody knows that the United States is the only industrialized country that doesn't have universal healthcare. And even with the health reform package that was eventually passed and will limp into some kind of effect over the next few years, we still are the only industrialized country without universal health care. I chose to work in the county hospital system because I really didn't like the 8 years I was over at Children's. Nice place, great folks, really skillful, but I really didn't like how we were more and more being put in a position of doing the wallet biopsy for admission. You have to know what sort of insurance people have before you can serve them. And at the county, that's not been the way it's run, although that too is changing under corporate management. People sometimes ask me, well, gosh, doctors, aren't you supposed to want to have your own practice so you can make a few extra $100,000 per year or whatever? And I don't really find that so important. Is in the ability to take care of people who need to be taken care of, and Lord knows we live comfortably on the kind of salaries that they give doctors in the public sector. It's perfectly clear to me that it's a superior system to just be able to give according to what is needed rather than according to what people's ability to pay is. And so then the next question is, well, so you're for socialized medicine? I guess. So, that's what you call it. Okay. And so when pressed on that, my only real objection is that that's the only thing. So, why can't people have housing? Hey, wouldn't transportation for everybody be a nice thing? Education. Public education is disappearing rapidly before our eyes. So basically, a lot of things that were put into place over the last, 50, 100 or more years seem to be evaporating under the current, ideological dominance of sort of free market furor. To me, it doesn't really make sense in terms of the vast majority. And look, if you are a business owner, and I don't mean necessarily a small business, but if you're a big business owner, it makes a lot of sense. But for the other 90-something percent of the population, it's really not necessarily going to help. Certainly not if you get sick. So.
First thing, the idea of internal inner education, that strikes me, knowing who and really what you are. So the first step that the ordinary person can do is to recognize that you must begin to treat the right to work for every willing hand is an inalienable right. Fundamental. God demanded it. You got to sweat by the sweat of your brow and briars and all that kind of bad stuff, but that's how you work out your salvation. You got to have a job. Well, what does that mean? It means that without work for wages in this capitalist system, we cannot buy the products of our business friends up here. Otherwise, if everybody's an entrepreneur producing something, somebody's buying, there we are. So somebody's got to be the buyer. So I'm looking to the buying people. Without them, there is no society. And yet they act like they don't believe it. We power their rules, because if you have workers someplace else you can exploit, then why not? We must recognize that the right to have a job, work for wages in this capitalist system, you can have neither life, nor liberty, nor a way to pursue happiness. Not about loving money or wanting it, and some obsessive desire like these rich folks have. It is a need that has been created by a structure, and when that structure one day will disappear, as God has ordained, it will disappear or be overthrown or destroyed, especially if it can't supply jobs to people. That's just, you will be mocked. You can't play with God and his power. He will destroy systems where people cannot get to work, to live, to eat, to have children that are healthy. He will not, or she will not, for our sisters here, she will not allow such systems to continue because they are demonic. Secondly, we must win our white brothers and sisters. Prop number 2, here's a white man. It's a white brother. Look what happened to him. He had faith in the system. He believed that he would be privileged always. He forgot the theory of the Civil War, that if you get in the way of powers greater than you, even though we thought you were the king of the hill with all your slaves and all your control of the government, by 1865 they had been shot to hell. Because these privileges come and go with whoever has the most power. Therefore, we must win this brother and sister to recognize that these privileges they gave you was designed to blind you to your working class reality. You were the beneficiaries, they told us, and made us hate you and look at you with anger and outrage. Male, genitalized, all that other stuff. But now we recognize that we're all working class folks, and in order for a fight for jobs to take place, white brothers and sisters must take part, including leading the fight against racist unemployment. Because the consciousness that comes with that, talk about internal revolution, there will be a revolution inside of a white person to say, hey, I can't be liberated until that Latino youth and that black youth down there who can't get a job because he stole some candy when he was 12 is free to reach out and be a part of the system in the consumer section of the process. We must recognize that deliberately keeping Latin and black youth and young adults unemployed to hold down inflation, as well as the way in which the system is operating, as well as other workers of color, drags down life for all. Every time you put a black person, a Latino person, or a poor white person in jail, there's X thousands of dollars that could go to job creation, building something, cleaning up these houses, sticking some tar in these potholes that are all over the place. Now, here's the key part. It's for average folks in this room. We must build a specific structure for this fight, and it's called the Unemployment Council. The Unemployment Councils will be the nucleus of the SNCC, the SCLC, NAACP of the coming struggle. Once we grasp our right to a job as an inalienable right, I didn't mess up your investment portfolios and suddenly you got to fire me to keep your $7 million bonus, Mr. whoever those guys are. That's my right to have this job. And so we will prepare a new strategy called the work-in. You've heard of the sit-in, the swim-in. What is the work-in? Unemployed people get all dressed up and neat and go to work. Go to that bank, I'm here to work, I'm here to work. I have to start doing something. Grocery store, start putting bag in the room. Wait, what are you doing in here? I'm working. But that comes with discipline and training. Because this is a school for a bigger struggle. It is a school to empower you to understand that you are the foundation of this society and not that glitterati that they want you to admire on television because some woman and man get married and everybody in the working class in England with their mouths hanging up except for those who understand the game. Oh my God, William get married. William get married. William get married. Form of idolatry that God just shakes her head at and says, what the hell did I create? But that's all right. But that is all right. Once we grasp that we're going to develop these unemployment councils, that all the tools that have been developed over 2,000 years of human struggle will be brought to bear. And what we'll be calling for that's very logical. 6 hours work for 8 hours pay. You don't have to fire anybody. Work 6 hours, you free up an entire section of work. And yet you're paying them at the same 8-hour rate so they can buy all the stuff that my producer's going to produce here. It's very logical, it is very reasonable. And at the same time, we want to be a living wage as the minimum wage. This begins with educating ourselves to the need for multiracial unity, international solidarity, multicultural appreciation, so we are more united than driven apart. My good friend here asked, why is it that the vampires keep coming back? Because the vampires got sexy. Have you seen Twilight? Everybody want to have sexual relations with a vampire. So sexy crap like racial identityism and white privilegeism and any kind of thing that keep us dividedism, and they make us look slick by having Whoopi Goldberg type people freckles. The vampire has gotten sexy. It looks so cuddly and cute, so cuddly and cute as we think, I have racial identity. I'm not a worker. I don't care nothing. And when we break through that narrow reality and recognize we're just workers trying to buy and we're possibly own a little business, whatever we want to do, then we will have to have some mass education to recognize this fact that racist unemployment hurts all workers regardless of color, just like slavery was hurting the poor white brothers and sisters who fought for the South during this War of the Rebellion. And once they wake up to that reality, that work is a part of who we are and what we must do, then you will not just walk away from a job, oh, they laid me off. You'll be angry, not at me or her or him, you'll be angry at the boss. Until such time that that reality emerges, we'll just sit here waiting for God, while God waits for us. Amen.
Amen.